today we're going to be looking at notes 1.3 types of democracy. And so the whole idea of democracy is power of the people. The people are, a major part of the government and making government decisions. But even that process comes in a variety of different ways. So we'll be looking at that today. Direct democracy. So direct democracy means rule by the people, and this is kind of democracy in its most truest form. In a direct democracy, people would make major government decisions by majority rule. So citizens come together to discuss, pass laws, and select leaders. This works best in small communities. Direct democracy does not exist at the national level anywhere in the world today. So this first came out in ancient Athens, where we began to see the foundations of democracy. And so it stated that everyone had an equal say. But in reality, what we really saw happening in ancient Athens, it was an elite-based system where only a small fraction of the males truly could participate in government. But again, a direct democracy means the people directly are passing laws and voting for laws, and that is not what we have here in the United States. We have a republic or representative democracy. So this is an indirect form of democracy that places political decision making at least one step away from the people. So it is still a government by the people, but what we're doing is we are electing officials to make those decisions. So citizens are the ultimate source of government authority. In a republic or representative democracy, citizens elect representatives to make government decisions on their behalf. So our state senators, our congressmen, House of Representatives, they're the ones that are debating, passing laws, and we elect them to represent us, represent Southern California, represent California, and representatives are elected for a set term. And so we, the people, if we don't like what our congressman is doing, that at the next election time, we can choose to vote for someone else. So they're not in that position forever. They do have accountability. So ancient Rome and the United States are examples of republics. So now there's different ways that countries can organize their national power. So the first example is a unitary government. So I have a picture here of the Houses of Parliament because this is a perfect example for a unitary government. So power is concentrated in the central government, in this case Parliament. All powers held by the government belong to that single central agency. So the central national government creates local governments, but those local governments only have the powers that the central government gives them. And it's really these local governments are only in existence to kind of help the national government with tasks, so to help them complete certain things so they aren't burdened with all of these to-dos. So Great Britain is an example. So a single central organization, Parliament, holds all of the power, and local governments only exist to help relieve Parliament's burden of power. So again, example of a unitary government. Next, we have a federal government. A federal government is one in which the power of government are divided between a central government and several local governments. So you have national, state, and regional governments all sharing power. All levels have the power to make their own laws, elect officials, and create agencies. So the United States is an example of a federal government because we have our national government will have certain powers, and the 50 states have other powers. So we kind of exist separately, but then also work in conjunction with another one. Whereas in comparison to the unitary government, the local governments couldn't really do anything by themselves. They were given specific tasks of what they had to do from Parliament. Whereas our states have their own powers, and so that the national government does not have. So it's a whole division of power that is set by the Constitution. The next form is called a confederal government. And so this is a confederation. It's an alliance of independent states. And so the example that we're going to talk about is from the European Union, is an example of a confederal government. So independent states join together in a confederation and delegate limited powers to a central government. The central government only has powers given to it by its member states. Confederate governments have limited powers and only in fields as defense and foreign affairs. So with the European Union, the EU was formed in 1993 with 11 countries and has grown since then. So they work together. In this case, they launched a common currency. They have the euro. They seek to coordinate its members' foreign and defense policies. So ultimately, they work together to unify a confederation of these states. So you have the different countries like France and Italy that are part of the European Union. And so those countries are still independent, but then they work together to have this common goal of the European Union. So they're willing to, again, work together, but not necessarily become unified. They're still retaining their independence. Okay, so we're going to look at now the presidential system and parliamentary system. So with a presidential system, here are some advantages and disadvantages. A president is elected by the people for a fixed term and cannot be dismissed. Separation of powers prevent abuses of authority, independent of other branches, able to make decisions quickly and independently. Some of the disadvantage, it's difficult to remove an unsuitable president. You have separation of powers may lead to gridlock, not able to accomplish certain things. Branches may have different agendas, so just because we have a president doesn't necessarily mean that he'll work well with Congress. Presidents may become too strong, and many presidential systems have turned authoritarian. And so this is presidential system in general. Some of these things are not specific to the U.S. Like in the U.S., we can remove a president from office, if needed. That is built into our Constitution. So again, this is just kind of in general the presidential system. Now we have the parliamentary system. So here is the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and he actually resigned earlier in the summer. So they're in the process of choosing a new prime minister. But in the meantime, he is currently the prime minister until Parliament has a new vote where the Tory party will choose the new prime minister, and that's supposed to be happening very, very soon. So advantages to the parliamentary system: the legislative and executive branches are often united in purpose, prime minister directly accountable to Parliament, and easier to pass legislation. Some of the disadvantages: fewer checks and balances, prime minister selected by the legislative body, not the people, and the prime minister lacks independence, so has to kind of go with what the party wants in order to kind of get things done. So this is the end of the notes. You want to make sure you go back, fill in your key terms, and also complete the assignment for today.